Ja.
Du bist geboren in London und 1988 bist du umgezogen nach Northern Ireland. Erst nach Derry für 20 Jahre und die letzten 4 Jahre nach Belfast. Während der Zeit der Konflikte in der Gegend sind die meisten von Northern Ireland nach London oder nach England umgezogen. Du hast das Gegenteil gemacht. Aus welchem Grund?
Well, I moved to Ireland because of my artwork. The work I was making in London was very political, in a way more political than now, but it was terrible, it was really bad. The politics were very naive and it wasn't working. And I wanted to make art about the conflict in the north of Ireland. So the only way I thought I could do this successfully was to move there. So initially I wanted to go there for 2, maybe 3 years. But now I've been there for 24. And it worked, I think. When I arrived, I was able to live in the community, get to know the people, and understand the conflict more. And I think that that's improved my politics and improved my art.
Deine Arbeit basiert auf der kritischen Auseinandersetzung mit den Texten, speziell mit historischen Dokumenten und durch die Transkription. Warum hast du zum ersten Mal oder wann hast du zum ersten Mal angefangen, mit Texten zu arbeiten und wie hat sich das im Laufe der Jahre entwickelt? Was hat sich geändert, auch bezogen auf das Material, Werkzeug und die Farben?
When I moved to Ireland, one thing that I wanted to look at was the relationship between socialism and republicanism, and I found a very good way of doing this, and this was through what's called the com. The com is a prisoner's letter, which is written in very small writing on cigarette papers. They're then folded up, wrapped in plastic, in the mouth, and then when they have a visitor, they kiss the visitor and pass it from mouth to mouth. When I discovered this, it was the perfect vehicle for me to look at that relationship between republicanism and socialism, because I had what was essentially a republican form in the com, to which I could put in socialist content. So I wrote socialist books onto cigarette papers in very small writing. And so while the prisoners' letters were perhaps this big, with cigarette papers licked and stuck together, I did them this big, the whole books. The first book I wrote on these papers was a book by Rosa Luxemburg called Reform and Revolution. So that was how I first started using text, and I've been using it ever since. So that was more than 20 years ago. After that, I started to write directly onto gallery walls. So the first one I did was a book by Karl Marx called A Contribution to the Critique of Political Economy. The reason I chose that was because in the preface to that book, Marx wrote about his base and superstructure theory, which in simple, just very complex, but in simple terms, it argues that the economic structure of society determines ideology, including politics, religion, culture, art. And so I was looking at how independent artists are in relation to the art market and the art gallery system. Okay. So I was writing this ideological attack, if you like, onto the gallery walls. But at the end of the exhibition, the gallery, of course, came along with a roller and painted all out again. And so it kind of admits defeat as well. So I've used text in various ways since then. The longest piece, I guess, was writing Karl Marx's Das Kapital. All 3 volumes onto various two-dimensional objects. The Apples is a continuation of the use of text, which has progressed from the com to the wall pieces to writing on objects to now using apples.
Warum Äpfel?
In the last few years, I've been very interested in the Paris Commune of 1871. I'm very interested in the work of Gustave Courbet, the French painter, and he was a member of the Paris Commune. He was elected on as kind of representing the arts. Well, much of his work was kind of looking after museums and things like this. But while he was on the Commune, he ordered the dismantling of the Vendôme column, which is a large column in Paris with a statue of Napoleon on the top. Now he wanted it to be dismantled, but the communards did it in a more violent way than he intended. And they threw ropes over it, pulled it down and smashed it to pieces. At the end of the Commune, Courbet was arrested and put into prison for a period of time, and he was ordered to pay the cost of rebuilding the column, which of course was a lot of money, and he couldn't afford to pay for that. So in fact he escaped France and went to live in Switzerland for the rest of his life. But while he was in prison, he made still life paintings, mostly of apples. They were apples that were brought to him by his sister as a present. And most of the paintings, you can see the apples are starting to rot, to decay. And I believe, and others believe as well, that these apples were metaphors for the communards who were massacred. So at the end of the Paris Commune, government troops marched into Paris and killed 30,000 people. And so the last time that Courbet had seen Paris, the streets were littered with dead people. And so I believe that the apples were representing those dead people. So for me, now the apple, the rotting apple, represents an important element of class struggle and oppression of those people who try to resist capitalism.
Du hast sehr viel Zeit in diesem Raum verbracht, jeden Tag 8 Stunden, eine Woche lang. Deine Arbeit ist sehr zeitaufwendig und es scheint, als ob das deine Absicht wäre. Warum hast du keine Assistenten oder elektrische Werkzeuge?
Well, compared to some of the work I've done in the past, this isn't very time consuming. As I said, I made a piece where I wrote out Das Kapital, and that was working every day for 2.5 years. So, and after that I made another piece based on that, which was 480 oil paintings, which took 4 years. So 1 week working 8 hours a day isn't really a lot of time for me. It is intentional though, the notion of work involved in making. And again, this is thinking about Marx's theories about labour. He argued that labour in, for example, a factory is alienated. That is, that workers don't have control over their work or over the products of their work. And some people argue, including many Marxists, that artist labour is unalienated because we have more control over what we do, we have our own ideas, we make it ourselves. But thinking of it in terms of society, this isn't the case, I think, that artist labour is unalienated. Again, going back to Marx's base and superstructure theory, he said that human consciousness was determined by many factors, societal factors and economic factors. And so the consciousness of artists is also, of course, determined by those things. And so to argue that we think independently of that is not true. And so artist labour is also alienated. So it's important. I couldn't afford to have assistants anyway, but it's important that I make the work myself for that reason, that I'm seen as a worker. And it's clear from looking at the work that a lot of labour has gone into the production of the work. And as for use of technology, well, I do use computers to work things out, but I've yet to invent a machine that can cut words into atoms. So I'm happy to do it the way I am now.
Oh my God. Oh no. What have I done?